Welcome to the Ebony Road Players Podcast. I'm your host, Edye Evans-Hyde, singer, performer, and founder of Ebony Road Players. As a Black theater company in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Ebony Road Players strives to inspire, educate, and engage the cultures of our community. In this podcast, we take a deeper dive into the topics and issues surrounding the stories that we tell. So let's jump right into some meaningful dialogue and celebrate the diverse communities that we share. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ebony Road Players Podcast. My name is Edye Evans-Hyde, and I'm hoping that you guys have had a wonderful new year. I can't believe it's the beginning of a new year, and it's been really fun so far. So we hope the whole year goes as well. And I'm really happy today to have a really good friend of mine join us on this podcast. His name is Michael Travis, and he is, I guess, probably one of the most, I'm going to say this, Michael, that you are probably one of the most, the thespian in West Michigan theater, a mainstay in West Michigan theater. And the reason I know that is because we've done many, many shows together. Right. And I'm just really happy to have you on. I want you to share a little bit of your story, but let me start off with this quote first. And then, if you have some reaction to the quote, that would be great. Otherwise, we'll jump right into getting everybody to know who you are. Everybody knows you in West Michigan, of course. But hopefully this will go around the world and you can be seen and known for your history in theater in West Michigan. So we're going to start off with a quote by David E. Talbert, who is a playwright. And I guess the play that he wrote was called The Fabric of a Man. I don't know this play, but I thought the quote was wonderful. The Black audience needs to be given the respect they deserve, and our art needs to be given the respect it deserves. And I thought it was such a great quote because I think a lot of people right now are finding the importance of Black stories to be a part of American history and American stories. So I just wanted to share that a little bit and see what you get out of it. So Michael Travis is with us. Michael is from Grand Rapids, West Michigan area. Michael, I'm going to let you just tell your story, tell a little bit about yourself, and maybe a little bit of your journey into theater, because I know you have a really cool history about how you got into that.
All right, that's so funny. First, though, I have to say just how honored I am to be able to do this, to sit with you, Edye. Like you said, we go back a long way in theater. I was counting it up, and I looked at my first show. I was kind of redoing a acting resume. I forgot what it was for, about a year ago, and I tallied up the years. And when I looked at it, I started at Robeson, 1987. So this is 35 years.
Oh, man.
that I've been doing this, and I say we because I don't know. We've been married on stage so many times. It's a real thing. It's kind of funny. If we weren't married, we were messing around somehow. But it's been a beautiful, beautiful journey. And I tell people that how far we actually go back, in this. And I got started, like I said, 1987, and I did it as a dare. I was an athlete my whole life. That's all I've done, pretty much, in everything I do in life. I try to put a team aspect on it because that's where the solidity, even with family, I look at that as a team. I look at my fraternity as a team. I look at every sporting thing I've ever done, every organization. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. I've been there. That's a team. When you at work, that's a team. And you know what? The success in any team depends on that leadership. And if you don't have leadership, your team isn't going to be anything. So I've been on some amazing teams. And Cass, when you talk about being on stage, that is what pretty much saved my life because I got into theater as a bet. I was coming from playing some pickup basketball. I was 30 years old, and we used to go to this bar called Noah's Lark, and we'd sit there and after we played and have a beer or whatever and talk trash. And there was a pamphlet, there was a flyer on the table after we played one night. We had gone in, there was a pamphlet on the table and it said auditions, Robeson Player. And I had known about, heard about theater anyway, heard about Robeson Players and had been involved in theater in my church, like stage plays, Easter, Christmas, you always on stage doing something. So that was my beginning of my acting experience, but to do it like that, Guys and Dolls I had done, once again, it was a sports, it was a football connection. The director of the show, Guys and Dolls, came to my football coach and said, I need men to do Guys and Dolls. Can you ask some of your football players, if they want to do it, if they, just had the urge. So like 6 of us, we went and we did Guys and Dolls. It was an amazing experience, but it kind of stopped after that. It was fun. I loved it. Got to play a real juicy role in there. So I put it on the back shelf until I got older, and I started missing the camaraderie of that team aspect. Missed the practicing to try to get something to perfection, to try to make things perfect, and that's what athletes do. We always talk about practice makes perfect. No, it doesn't. It makes you so much better though. You practice and you strive for it. When you hit that perfection just for a little bit, there's a feeling that you get, and that's what
it's magical.
It's magic. And when it all happens, everybody, you can feel it's like, wow, we practiced that and it came out absolutely amazing. That's what I had missed. I missed trying to work with that as a team. So when I saw that flyer on the table, I said, I'm gonna go and audition for this. And I went and auditioned for it, Edye. I was scared to death. My sister came with me and she auditioned as well, but she had to fill my paperwork out. I couldn't write. I was so nervous. And I got in Guys and Dolls. And I'm telling you, that experience. And Robeson Players, I heard about Cedric Ward. God bless him. I heard about him, but he didn't direct the show. It was a different director. But the cast, oh my God, that was Benita Harvey. That was Larry Manley. That was Kate Chavez was the director. Mary, what's Mary's name? Mary, the singer.
Yes, was Mary Rademacher?
Mary Rademacher.
Yes.
She was in it. Larry Manley was Sky. Oh my goodness. The cast was absolutely amazing. And I went into it and I was thinking, I could just be haphazard about this. I don't have to do it. They sat me down. Sat me down after rehearsal and said, no, if you're on time, if you're here at 5, if you're here at 7:00 and rehearsal at 7:00, you're late.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, who do you think you're talking to? And it hit me so hard. I have not changed this mindset from them sitting me down like a little kid, because they have been doing it 10, 15 years. And I didn't know the amount of discipline that it really, really took to put this kind of production on. And they made it possible, man. And they've shaped my life. And like I said, that was 35 years ago. And I have not changed that.
And I have to tell you, one is you should have been nervous because that was a group that had been doing a lot of stuff already. Yeah. Very strong group of people. But then on the other hand, they were educational and they really, they weren't like, well, if you don't have all this, we're just kicking you out. It was a very, for me at least, it was a growth type of thing. And it's funny for you to talk about your very first show. The other people I've talked to on this podcast really highlights that very first show is the thing that really grabs them. Having that experience in that first show, you learn so much. It is, and you're talking about a team, but to a certain extent, I even go further that it becomes kind of a family.
It is a family. Well, that's what I was trying to make that connection because that team is family. And I talk about it all the time. When you're on that team, regardless of what it is. I was using those different organizations or aspects because that's what that is. You create that family for that amount of time, that short amount of time. That is family, and they remain family when you see them the next time as well.
Yes.
Cass, and I may not even remember all the people's names, but I will remember their face. And then, and we start talking, and it's like, oh yeah, do you remember this? Do you remember this? It's definitely a family feel.
Yeah, and I think that I came to it the very same way, only it was Cedric that persuaded me to audition for a show. And I've told our people on podcasts in the past that I was just a singer. I just, back in the day, I was singing rock and roll and disco. I was just a cover band person, and had just started singing jazz in a way. And Robeson Players did Ain't Misbehaving, and someone said, and I think it was Cedric, you should come and audition. And I'm like, I don't dance, I may do a little bit on stage, but I don't do any of that. But my husband and Cedric, they persuaded me to go, and oh my gosh, I was scared to death.
Right.
And ended up in it, and that was the show for me. I thought it was a little bit, like you said, you did one show and you thought that was it. That was kind of quirky. That was like a one in a lifetime thing. And it took 4 years for me to do another show.
Was that Ma Rainey?
Huh?
Was that Ma Rainey? Did you do Ma Rainey Black Bottom? Didn't you do it?
No, I did Lady Day at Emerson's Barn.
Lady Day, that's right.
Yeah, it was Billie Holiday. But the next show that I did was with you. That was the first show I'd done with you, and that was Dreamgirls.
Oh my goodness.
I'm thinking that's the first show we did together.
That was the first one.
And I don't know, maybe you can talk about that show a little bit, because the first show you did was a mixed race show. Normally it was a white show, correct?
Right, exactly.
And they did a little multicultural casting for this. But this Dreamgirls was a Black show.
Right.
And so that was my second show. And tell me what your thoughts were on actually doing a Black show. Did that make any difference to you, or did you think about that at all? Or what was your thought on that?
I had done some shows, quite a few shows in between that time. Because Edye, when I got bit by that bug, I was chasing shows. After I did Guys and Dolls, I was chasing shows. Anything that was coming up, I auditioned for. So I had done a few, so the experience of doing a Black show I had already had. But the thing about it is, if I'm going to be frank and honest, like brutally honest, when you do a Black show, it has a little bit more of a connection, though, because you know that what your audience is going to be. And I'll try to tie this into what I want to say about that quote anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You feel a whole kind of a different energy, even though your anxiety is already always right there. You're anxious, but you know that you've worked hard enough that you're going to perform this as best you can. But there's another level of energy when you know that it's a Black show and it's a Black audience, and people are gonna what we've done for life. You've always told us you have to be twice as good as everybody anyway, or better. So that's kind of in your mind too. So you want to be on top of your game, but you really don't want Black people dogging you if they come to the show and it's not top notch. So there's another extra push. And I'm saying this because my family wouldn't let me live it down if anything had just been, if I was like, oh, that's horrible. Right. And so I was like, no, it's not going to be horrible. It's going to be better than you would ever expect. And that's what we push for. And that's the energy that you get doing a Black show. Yeah. And the other thing is, you can't let anybody on that stage down, because you know how hard they've worked. So you gotta match them. You gotta match that energy, and they you. So that's what we strive for. And I think maybe if it may just be unsaid, because I don't remember ever talking to you about that push before. But when you go home and study, when you work in those dance moves, when you work in the harmonies in your head, it's like, oh, I know Edye's gonna have her, so I can't let her down. what would I sound like if we're doing a duet and I'm all wrong? So you work at that. You work at that. You work at it. So no, doing a Black show it's a different energy. It's a different level. Even though, you're always going to strive to do your best. That's just a given as an actor, as a performer, you're going to strive to do your best. But there's another little push in there that we have to have. And I've heard say, well, Cedric gives you another little push too. So that was always, I've always thought about him when I think about Black shows, because that theater, he put that together. Like I said, Bonnie and Larry and those guys, they've been doing theater already for like 15 years.
Yes.
When I got started. So, and that was all Cedric. That was all him. So when he said something, I had to listen on a different level, because, I'll put it like this. I'll say headstrong. But maybe because of my family dynamics and it being an athlete, there's another mentality that I've always had. Mm-hmm. So to listen to Cedric tell me, no, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this, and I'm like, ooh, really? You really? But I had to listen to him, and I took it. And to this day, there were so many lifelong lessons that man taught me. And then one day, Edye, oh shoot, I hope I don't break down. Don't do it. I'll say it, but if I tear up a little bit,
okay.
Can you cut that out?
No. You know what? There's some passion behind our stories. Yes. So don't worry about that.
Okay. He gave me one. Here it goes. He gave me one of the best compliments I've ever had. Martin Luther King Day, we used to do these symbolic marches downtown, right. The area I was working at, both schools. When I was at Aquinas College and when I was at Calvin University, we, the multicultural departments, and I was director of multicultural department and assistant director at Aquinas, but director at Calvin. And we had gone down to one of those parades at Fountain Street Church. After we marched, we go there and have a celebration. And we didn't have anybody to sing the Lord's Prayer. And he came up to ask me, like, spur of the moment, after the march, to sing. And I did. And he introduced me. And he said, Michael, I mean, it's a saying that people have heard a lot, but it's been a lot. Yeah. He said, Michael is we call him a triple threat.
Take your time.
He dances, he sings, but he's an amazing actor.
Oh, and that stays with you. I mean, Cedric.
He didn't give compliments. He didn't give compliments like that.
He did not give compliments like that. No. I mean, his goal all the time was to get you to hate him.
Yeah. And which I did a lot. But
once you figured him out, and you knew where his passion was, he also was very good about lifting people up. If he knows,
he always knew what you were capable of.
He always knew what you were capable of. And I think that in Black art and Black theater right now, being that we sometimes don't get a person that lifts us like that,
right?
He was very important, and he was so important to me. Kind of the same kind of stories that you have, that he allowed me to learn, but he did not, he wanted me to come with my best. And if I didn't know how to come with my best, he would figure out a way to draw it out of me.
Exactly.
And like I said, I could be as mad as heck out of him, but I always knew that he was there for me to be the best that I could be. So I totally understand.
Yeah, it's funny because that's what I think I missed And I think that's what historically Black colleges, HBCUs, I think that's that thing that they have. You know,
Yeah.
they don't mind making it hard and challenging you to the utmost, but they also give you that nurturance that, you know, that we need, that is needed, because we may not have gotten it along the way,
Right.
or we definitely won't get it at the, you know, the majority schools.
Well, and when you get out into the world, they have to, they get a way to, they teach you a way to be proud on your own, to be able to get up on your own and do what you need to do, no matter what. And I think theater, and you're talking about teams and things like that. I think the whole theater thing was a way for me to learn how to be a better person in general. And once I went through it with a bunch of Black people going through it, I felt like I was able to go elsewhere with that, you know, just finding out
that confidence.
Yeah, that confidence. And even though I was still scared to death, but it's like, okay, I'm going to try this. And if it's supposed to happen, it's supposed to happen. And that's what it was. And I think Dreamgirls for me was, I mean, Ain't Misbehaving was it, because it was, you know, I could sing and they taught me how to tap dance, believe it or not. And, but then move on to something like Dreamgirls, where there's a huge cast and everyone is Black. And I think I was nervous because of my Black cast, that, like you were saying, am I going to be able to present myself the way they want me to present?
Plus, you have to always take this into consideration too. As Dina went, Dreamgirls went. So you know that put a lot of pressure on you too. So you had that one. You had that one to look at too. I mean, that show was big. That show was big, and your character. I mean, come on, that was Diana Ross. So you're the biggest person on the stage. So.
Well, Effie really was, but
yeah. Okay. Well, it's a duality there, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's Effie's show.
Yep.
But that's still the Ladina show. I don't know. And the thing about it.
Go ahead.
No. The thing about Dreamgirls was there was some talented people in that cast, man. Yes. When you think about who was there, what we were doing, I put those kind of shows up, and I've seen a lot of Broadway shows. I've seen a lot of theater everywhere. I've been in a lot of theater everywhere. What we used to do on that little stage and what we did with Dreamgirls was something that to behold. On
that small little stage.
Yeah.
And for our people who know about West Michigan and the old Actors Theater,
right,
was in a small church, very close to
95 people.
Huh?
I said 95 people, 95 members in the audience, people in the audience.
Yes, it was a small stage, small audience, but I think that cast had 15 people in it.
I'm thinking, Guys and Dolls had about 25. Yeah, I think 15 or maybe
more. I mean, how do you get that amount of people on that stage?
Right.
It was amazing. Yeah. And not to keep going with Dreamgirls, but I have seen it at DeVos, and the feeling that we put into that show is untouchable to me. No, I mean, there are themes in the show that Cedric would bring out.
Yeah,
that I don't think anyone else realized.
I had the pleasure. I'm going to say this. I don't care if anybody sees it either. I had the pleasure and displeasure of doing it a second time. A different character.
I understand.
And it wasn't even in the same ballpark. I mean, same show.
Yeah.
Completely different feel. Completely
what
different.
What people took away from that show was not just about music. It was not just about dancing. It was about, and this is how I got into really talking about social justice and how plays can really deal with history and social justice. And if you just deal with the music and the dance, you really aren't digging into what the actual show is about. And I realized what that show was about.
Yeah.
And how important it was.
And that importance also that ran over with me, because I was doing, like I said, I was chasing shows, I was doing farce and all of that, but the ones that really mattered had a message, and like social justice and well, anything to benefit the culture and make us more represented than us, than we typically are. Yes. Those are the shows that I looked for. Pretty much after Dreamgirls was a significant point in that, and I got to do a bunch of those. Also got to direct a few of those, like on college campuses as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's a total different thing when you think about why it's written and
why we're doing it.
Yeah, I think that goes back pretty much to the quote that I gave about the respect for Black theater and respect for the art. Yeah. And not just for Black people, but for the community at large.
I was going to say, that's how I was going to tie that quote in. It's Black theater, and we appreciate the Black audience, but theater in itself, I believe, is probably the most effective form of communication through entertainment, to live theater. But Black theater, when we have a message that needs to get out, we do so much education on stage to people that are not Black, to the audience, that, like you said, the audience at large. When they come, they're like, oh, I really didn't know that. I really didn't understand it. But you know what they're actually saying too? I really didn't think that performance was going to affect me that way. I didn't really think that you could convey your message effectively enough to make my perception change. Those kind of things, when people come up to me and say, oh, I really was moved by that, I'll never forget such and such, I'll never forget that. That means a lot. And that's saying a lot about Black theater and how effective it could be. And it is, how effective it is. And for a performer, like I said, that touched me and stayed with me forever as well. When people say, you changed, I've changed because of what I saw on stage. Right. And that was a lot. So that quote was strong.
Yeah, it really is, well, when I think about the shows that you and I have done together, past Dreamgirls, they have been so, I mean, there have been times when Black audience members, you can hear them react on stage. I remember that, and for a Black performer, I almost have to like really shut that down, because I hear it. I don't know if anybody else hears it, but I hear it.
Yeah, you hear it.
When we did Dreamgirls, and of course, the male lead, one of the male leads was Medwin Johnson.
Yes, sir.
And rest his soul as well.
Yes, sir.
And one night, I don't know if it's because we had a mainly Black audience. I don't know what it was, but they were absolutely, they hated him, and you could hear it.
Oh God, I remember that night. I remember that night so well. I'm like, oh, it's some families, it's some church families out there tonight.
Yes,
they were like,
and he was. No one's ever disliked him on stage. I think because he came down totally messed up. He was messed up. They hate me. They don't like me. And I remember telling him, I said, Medwin, that means you're doing a good job. And that was he was almost afraid to go back on stage because they were not like him.
He was a little scared. That was funny though. It was funny, but it wasn't, because he was a little timid about it. But he went back out there and did his thing again.
Did his thing. And it was amazing. And then one other time, and maybe you can share sometimes that that's happened to you, one other time, when we were doing what was this show that we did, not Intimate Apparel, but the one where I was trying to go to France and you were the doctor. Oh
my God, Edie, what was that? Oh my goodness, I forgot about that show.
Yep, I should have had it written down. I should never go on podcasts without having my information down.
I wish I had.
But I'll think of it. I'll think of it. Anyway, there's the scene where I'm telling the other character what has happened to me because supposedly I'm pregnant.
Right.
And he's like ready to go and, you know, have this family or whatever. And I remember telling him the line was, and before I said the line, the audience knew what I had done. The audience already knew. And I had girlfriends in there go, "Go, don't tell them. Don't say it. You can hear them.
Don't say it.
Don't say it."
Edie, what was that show? I remember it like it was yesterday now. And I can't.
So we'll have to think of it and, you know, put it at the end of this.
Yes,
but it was at that moment, I thought this is the strongest scene in the whole show because the people had this has made me think I did a good job. That audience had followed me all the way through. And when I finally said what I wanted to say, they knew it was coming.
Yeah. They knew that you shouldn't tell, but they knew that you were going to.
Yeah.
Oh God. Edie, you know what's funny? When they will finish a line for you. Yes. You know how I've done that one cracks me up. That one tickles me so bad. I know because, like I said, if it's a predominantly Black, or it doesn't even have to be predominantly Black. If you got one of our people that are pretty vocal when they come to stuff or movies or whatever, they're gonna say it. And I remember like 2 or 3 nights out of the run, I would there was a little pause and I forgot what the line was, but I'd take a pause and somebody, you could hear it. They finished that line and I would want to laugh so bad because I knew it was coming, and you can't do it.
You can't do it. You can't do it, and you almost have to cut that audience off because
don't take the pause. I started doing that.
Yeah, so you had to cut them off because like I said, the first time that happened to me, I thought, "Oh my God, what's happening here?" Because they were really with it. And that's how I knew the show was being successful because people were really following us. Yeah. So talk to me, you know, I could talk to you for like 2 hours because I feel like we have so much.
We could. I got to stop. I was going to tell you at the beginning, if I go off on a tangent, just cut me off, please.
No, it's such, I'm hoping that whoever does this, does my editing for me, that they kind of take out, you know, what they need. I'm just going to tell them there's some editing we need to do because you and I have so much history, so many shows that we've done together. And we have, I think, affected audiences with our relationships on stage. Yeah. And I know Ragtime is probably one of my favorites. Just because there's so much in it, and you played that part so passionately to me, and you made my part easy to do, if that makes sense.
Edie, that was the show that I was kind of making reference to without saying it when I was talking about there's no way I could let you down in that show. Mm-hmm. That show was so powerful. And again, I did that one in a different role. I kind of wish I hadn't, but I did. But that part, our connectedness, our synergy in that show is what the audience still to this day, when people talk about Ragtime, they'll talk about, man, you and Edye just took that show. And it was so much, it was fun to do. And I probably was singing probably better than I'd ever sang before in that show. So that was the other thing.
I'm singing Audrey McDonald. What? Huh?
Exactly. What? You know, whenever I see her, I just saw her on TV last week and I thought about you. I was like, Edye, she got you. She got you, Audrey. I'm sorry. That's all I can say.
The girl is amazing. And all I did was dream or pray every night that I could even come close to delivering that song.
When I saw it, I thought you did. I thought it was better, more than close. You did. That was a powerful, powerful show. That was so much fun.
It was so much fun. It goes in my memory as probably one of my favorite. To me, it was almost the height, except for doing Billie Holiday. I think it was the height of where I went with something that I never even thought that I would do in my life, and that was theater.
And I was going to say, you talk about all you were doing is singing and not dancing and all that, but your acting performance in that, Edye, was that, that's why I say you can't do that without something internal. You can't just say lines and portray what you were doing on that stage at that time, what we did on that stage at that time. I'll put it like that. There's something. There's an internal thing that comes out, and it's personal, and you want people to learn from it. But that's a whole different level when you hit that the way we hit that show. So
yeah,
I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think for all of us. And I remember on rehearsals, our first rehearsal, and I remember everybody crying because the music was so amazing.
Yeah,
the music was so amazing in general.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell you how much I have enjoyed working with you over the years. It's been
fun.
It's been fun. It will, when I write my book, it will go down into one of my, it made me who I am, and because I was in my 20s and my 30s, and I kept doing it through, I won't say how old I am, but I kept going for a little while until it's like, okay, there's really not a whole lot for me to do right now, but to encourage other people to experience what you and I experience. And I know we have talked about retiring, and that's what we say now, but tell me what it feels like to say, you know what, I think I've done it. I think I've retired. But what does that really mean to a theater artist? What is that?
Edye, truthfully, not a thing. Because right now, if somebody put a script in front of either one of us, and within an age range that we think we could fit, and we like the script, I guarantee you we're gonna try to go do it. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I know I would, and I'm pretty sure you would too.
I would. My fear is it can't be big because I don't have a lot of lines that if it's maybe a musical that I can get through, but I think that feeling is always in you. You're always looking for, and I'm going to say it's a theater high. You're always looking for that theater high, and whatever that means. Does it mean you're telling a story that you just is amazing? You want to hook up with this group of people that you're going to have for a little while, a couple months as a family. And I think that you, and I came in later, but we're that group of people who've done it now for a while. And like I said, I want to encourage other people to do it, but I don't want older people to think that they can't be a part of something like this.
Right.
Especially retirees,
And I tell older people too, like, don't worry about your age. If you're within that age range and you like the part, if you are familiar with the show at all, give it a shot. Even though it's your first time. I mean, it's time consuming, so be prepared for that. But don't be afraid to try it, because it's more than just saying words or singing a song. It's so much more than that.
Or being a star on stage. I mean, and I think what we've pointed out is, there's not only things on stage that we want to do, but to make a show go, I've also been encouraging people to, think about stage managing, to think about light design, to think about those things that actually make a show go.
Which is a whole nother show within itself.
That's a whole nother show within itself. And there's a whole bunch, and we don't have Black people doing that in this city right now. And so it's one of those things I like to try to encourage people. Hey, go follow the light person, go follow the sound person, really look at what's going on. I know that when we did Ragtime, my son ran the spotlight. I don't know if you knew.
I remember that. Yeah, because he was up with not Sam, he was with Katie, but didn't he do some of that?
Well, I think he just ran, they just asked him to run a spotlight. And they gave him when we needed the spotlight. So I think there was a spotlight on me or on the casket, when I died or whatever. Right. So he had an amazing time being a part of this show, but on the inside, designer wise,
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
it's just a great experience for people.
We got a couple of really strong stage managers out there right now too. The twins.
Yes, but they're
Yeah,
doing everything right now.
yeah. Everybody wants them because they are really good and so efficient.
Yes,
So
and that's an amazing job. My daughter is a stage manager. Oh, look at it, dog.
he
My
had to.
daughter's a stage manager.
He does this whenever I'm on anything. He'll
Yeah,
come and
wants some
stick his
attention.
face there. Yeah.
Like, who are you talking to?
Who is that?
I those are just some important things that I want to encourage people to look at too.
Yeah.
I don't want to take all your time. I usually try to do these about 45 minutes or so. But like I said, I could talk to you for hours.
We really could. I mean, we're just reminiscing about different shows, like that show that you just brought up, Edye.
Yeah,
I truly have forgotten that show, and I don't know that it's even on.
I know what it is.
What
it was Blues for an Alabama Sky.
Blues for an Alabama Sky. Oh my God, that was once again so much talent in that show. That was so good. My God, now I got to go find that script to read it. That was good.
I just felt my character was, it's probably one of the bad characters that I played.
She wasn't even that bad. I mean, there was some bad elements, but she wasn't like the antagonist in the whole thing. Come on. That was a good show.
I loved kind of being that bad character.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to play the double once, and that's to this day. Amen Corner, that was still one of my favorite parts. And who could say that? Oh, I had fun playing the double, but it was a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, and that's what I was going to ask you next: is what was your favorite character that you played? Ooh. Is that hard?
Oh, Edye, you see, that's unfair.
That's got to be hard.
That is. But you know what? It's really not that bad because there's two that stand out above, and one of them was definitely Cole House in Ragtime, and the other one is Troy Maxim and Fences.
Both the shows I did with you.
Yes, you did. And when I did Fences with you, I think I played Gabriel.
You did, but then we did it again at East Grand Rapids.
At the dinner theater.
No, we did it at East Grand Rapids.
East Grand Rapids High School.
Yes.
Oh my God, you're right. God, I am so old.
We've done it twice.
Yes.
Haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. We sure did. That's, oh God. That's another show that I've done that one. I do that one every time. I did that one every time it comes around.
It's such a great show.
Those two were, I'd have to say, they're right there. But there's others. There's others that are right up there. It's just that I really cherish. Cherish those. So,
and it feels like, some of them are things that you grew with, and I just feel like I grew with all my shows. I think Billie Holiday was the hardest because it was a one-woman show.
Right. And I don't know how you did that. I don't know how people do those.
I don't know how I did it either. I seriously don't. I had Cedric on my back and Joe Doolin on my back. And so there was a whole bunch of reasons why I don't know how I got through it. But
Edye, let me tell you another thing about team. I'm horrible as an athlete. I'm horrible at a single sport, individual sport. Horrible. And I can play them, but I don't have anybody to help me, to pass the ball to or to help me out. I'm horrible at tennis, and I can play. I'm horrible at everything I have to do by myself.
Yeah, well, that's a case where I just had to engage the audience.
Yeah.
I had to say the story to them.
Right.
And that was, and I'll tell this quick because hopefully we can edit this out. But one night we did the show, and they had put chairs actually on the stage. I don't know if you saw the show, but they actually put chairs on the stage. They built me a little stage on the side.
Okay.
And then the audience was both on the floor and on the stage.
Wow.
Okay. One night, do you know what I mean? Like they
I know exactly what you
down.
mean, but I thought I didn't know it was just one night. I thought that was your setup the whole time that you had.
No, it was that we ran the
Okay.
show for days, but they turned it into a bar.
Right.
Basically.
Okay.
So they had little bar chairs and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, one night I'm right in the middle of one of my monologues, and a guy on the stage, his chair broke and he fell off the stage.
Oh my God.
Yes. And of course, the whole audience goes and looks at him, and he gets up. He didn't want to stop the show. So he gets up and he says, "Billy, I'm okay. I'm okay, Billy. I'm fine." And I thought, okay, one is, where do I go back into this show?
Right. How do you pick it back up?
Yeah. And do you remember Michael Shansky?
Yeah.
So he was my pianist. Okay. For this show. And I turned around, and he used to always kind of twirl
the hair or play with his beard.
Yeah. And he was really nervous. So he's twirling his hair. And I said, and I told the guy, I had a bartender that was, actually I had a bartender in the place. And I told the bartender, and his name was M. I said, "M, honey, you got to get some better chairs up in this place." And so I had this conversation with M. And then I turned, and it gave me time to think of, where do I go? And I said, so where was I? And I turned to my pianist, and he starts playing, and then I go right back into it. But It was the most frightening thing. But you can't do anything. You have to keep going.
We didn't even touch about the little intricacies that can happen on stage.
Yes.
We didn't even talk about that, because
and how you get through them.
live theater, you have to pull some rabbits out of hats all the time.
Yes.
You just got to work magic. It's just got to happen, and you can't stop the show. And if you go up on your lines, you got to figure out something to tie you back in. That right there was amazing. That was a comeback. That was one that you put in there. We didn't even talk about that aspect.
No, and we'll have to do that. I'll have to have you on again when we talk about crazy stuff that happens on stage, because I think I've experienced more than anyone has ever experienced, just because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But you get through it. I'm going. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you never know what's going to happen.
You never know what's going to happen. So I want to give you a moment to share whatever you would like to share at the end, for the end of this. And I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story, and sharing a bit about I just want to share that you've made my theater life very amazing. So I just want to share that to you, and let everybody know how much you and Cedric and everyone who really touched, gave me the strength to do a lot of stuff that I was doing. And I just think it made theater great during that time. So I want to thank you for that. And if you want to end with saying anything, I just have to say this, that everything that you said is reciprocated. We wouldn't have been able to do a lot of those shows without each other. I don't think and they definitely wouldn't have been, they wouldn't have had the magnitude of importance for other people to remember if it had been you and I and the chemistry that we shared on stage. So no, I definitely appreciate that. And I talk about, I won't say that I'm retired from theater. I'm tired. I don't think I could do like a lead role of any sort, of any kind. But if there was a juicy enough part, I sure go back and do it. I sure try it after 35 years. Yeah. You know what's funny? You don't. This is what one of the things that I don't like about. I shouldn't say don't like, but we have to work on our community, our Black people going, or people of color, period, going to theater, doing theater. Mm-hmm. Mhm.
Like I said, I've been doing theater for 35 years on some level. And do you know that there was like one commercial that I was on television for about a minute? And do you know how many people responded to that? And I wanted to say, there's been theater going on for 30 years.
Yes.
You're talking about, yeah, I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you did that. I was like, actually, I don't. That was like just the 30-second piece.
Yes.
And you're talking about because it was on television, and you're missing the whole benefit of what this community has been doing for close to 50 years or more, that you're exposed to. Well, maybe you're not exposed to it, but you should have been exposed to it.
Yeah.
So you could appreciate what Black theater and multicultural theater in this community can do.
Mm-hmm.
And don't just rely on what you've heard about the theater experience in Grand Rapids, because it's not always true. You got to get out and experience, and we got to do a better job. And I still sit on the board of Civic, and not just Civic Theater. I'll put the blame on that one because I am on the board. Not the blame, but the onus. We got to do more to get more audience participation on a wider spread. And we've been saying it for years.
But I also think that that is what West Michigan is. If for some reason we're not teaching art like this in the schools, in the Grand Rapids public schools as much as we should. This is my opinion, of course. Yeah. And a lot of the outside school systems kind of understand the importance of that. And this is what Ebony Road Players is trying to do, is trying to encourage people to come to shows. And, we've done relatively good with known shows, but we do a lot of unknown shows too. And hopefully our thing is to kind of do more with marketing and trying to figure out how we can be more effective in that way. Yeah. And I really appreciate all the theater companies right now. I mean, they are really doing a lot more shows than they had been.
And I'm just saying because I know that stigma has never died since when we started this, 50 years ago. It's always just been, Civic Theater, they ain't gonna never do anything Black. I'm tired of seeing Bye Bye Birdie, not Bye Bye Birdie, but whatever.
Annie.
And, and not realizing that there's so much more that can be done. So I guess the struggle never continues. You gotta keep pushing.
And that's with everything. That's with all arts for people of color. But I think my thing is I'm so honored to have been a part of those theaters, starting with Robeson, who gave, going back to the beginning of our conversation, who gave me the abilities to see that I could do something like this. Right. And then it moves you on to the twins that you were talking about. They started off doing stuff at their church, and then they came to Ebony Road Players, and now they are doing stuff with Civic. Amisha is the same way, Amisha Gross. And like I said, I'm editing all this, so we don't have to, get into names and stuff, but it's a thing, and we got to keep doing it. And Michael, if I can, get you involved a little bit in helping us do that, because you've got great history. Let's exploit your history, darling.
I would love to, Edye. I've got time.
Okay.
I got time today. I like to say, I got time today. I'm retired, so there's a lot more that I can do and would like to do. So yeah,
I'll keep you posted on stuff.
Hit me up if you have anything.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah. Sorry I was late.
Again, everyone, this is Michael Travis. 35-year veteran in the theater in West Michigan, and a good friend of mine and a good partner for me in many, many shows that we've done in the past. And so I thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk soon. You are so welcome, Edye. Anytime. Right. Thank you. Have a good one. You too. All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Ebony Road Players Podcast. Creating theater with a purpose is our mission, and that is not possible without people like you. We appreciate you joining us for this podcast and for being a part of our diverse community. To view the video version of this episode and gain access to exclusive Ebony Road Players content and perks, join our community on Patreon at patreon.com/Ebony Road Players. In the words of Zora Neale Hurston, quote, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you," unquote. If you have a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Contact us on Facebook, Instagram, or our website, ebonyroad.org. And we look forward to continuing the conversation next time on the Ebony Road Players Podcast.